We are starting our second part of the book of Ruth.
Religion are many, prosperity preachers are many who seek to twist the truth of the Bible for their own destruction. Get ready to hear the truth from the Mr. Kakulitas and the Bible podcast. Genesis to Revelation, and Jesus Christ is the key that unfolds it all. Listen as he explains parables, miracles, history, and more of the Bible. Are tired of false religion and teacher who confirm it. Let's listen to Mr. Kakulitas and the Bible podcast. Genesis to Revelation, and Jesus Christ is the key that holds it all. Listen as he explains parables, miracles, history, and more of the Bible. Of the Bible. Genesis to Revelation. Jesus Christ as the key that unfolds it all. Listen as he explains parables, miracles, history, and more of the Bible. Of the Bible. Of the Bible. Smile.
We might have to have part 3 in this study. But let's start reading the book. We didn't get to the book yet. It says, "Now it came to pass in the days when judges ruled." This is why I spoke all the information about Moab and about judges, about people doing whatever they want. That there was a famine in the land. The famine was definitely a plague from God, because God can give a famine. God has done it time and time again. He could stop the rain, so there won't be no early rain or latter rain. Anyway, we'll could talk about that as well. But it is God who gave this as a judgment upon the time of the judges, because the people are disobedient to God. So God has to punish them. God is the God of the blessings, and he is also a God who can, like he says in Haggai 1 verse 10, "Therefore the heavens above you withhold the dew, and the earth withholds the rain." And we see in Deuteronomy 11:14 about God giving the early rain and the latter rain. "Then I will give you the rain for your land in the season, the early rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your grain, your new wine, and your oil." So there could have also been a famine due to pestilence because of Israel's disobedience at that time, and them loving to worship idols and forsake God. God has his reasons for punishing or disciplining his children. Remember in Psalms 23, his rod and his staff, it comforts us. It says, "And a certain man from Bethlehem of Judah." There's actually 2 Bethlehems in the Bible. There is this Bethlehem of Judah, which also Jesus was born, and it was where David was mostly. And there was Zebulun, Bethlehem of Zebulun. We see this in Joshua 19, verse 15 to 16. So, but this man specifically is from Bethlehem of Judah. It says that he went to dwell in the country of Moab. It was because of this famine, he went to dwell in the country of Moab. He and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech. That name means, "My God is king." The name of his wife was Naomi. Noemi. That name means pleasant one. And the names of his two sons were Mahlon and Chilion. Mahlon, he's the one that gets married with Ruth, as we see in Ruth 4, verse 10. And Chilion. Mahlon means sickly. Chilion means weak one, puny one. From Euphrates of Bethlehem, Judah. They were from Bethlehem, Judah. And they went to the country of Moab and remained there. I think that was a big mistake. They should have stood in the land of Israel. But they went to where God wanted not them to be. This is why everything happens to them. Because like we saw in Deuteronomy 12, verse 8, people are not supposed to be doing what they want. And what the people did in the time of the judges, and as we see in Joshua 21:25, they did what they thought it was good in their eyes. And what was good in his eyes was, hey, let's go to Moab. But disasters happens there. What was the disaster that happened there? As we're going to see, first, they have pagan marriages. Now, they took wives of the women of Moab. These are women that worship Chemosh, the god who likes children sacrifices. And the name of they took wives of them. The name of one of them was Orpah, and the name of the other one was Ruth. You know, Orpah, that is where Oprah's real name is from, that lady of the talk show. That's her real name. And she changed it to Oprah. But it's the same name, almost the same name. But that's her real name. It was a biblical name, and she changed it to Oprah. Anyway, the name of one was Orpah, and the other name was Ruth. And they dwelt there for 10 years. And what happens is, in verse 3 it says, and Elimelech, Naomi's husband, dies, and Naomi was left with her two sons. And then to make things worse, in verse 5 it says, then both Mahlon and Chilion also died. So the woman survived her two sons and her husband. In a 10-year span, this woman, for her husband's disobedience, loses her husband and her two child. Before we leave someplace, before we decide to move, let's pray to God. Hey, God, is this your will for us to go there? Because if it's not your will, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be disobedient to you, Lord. And then we read in verse 6, then she arose with her two daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had visited his people by giving them bread. Bethlehem means the house of bread. And it's funny, there was a famine in the house of bread that made them leave to Moab. Now they hear in Moab that there is bread, that there is food in Bethlehem again. Therefore, she went out from that place where she was, her and her two daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest each in the house of her husband. So she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. They don't want her. They don't want to leave her. At least one of them doesn't want to leave her. The other one, you know how their people are. I have them, and many of them, sometimes in Facebook. We love you, Pastor. And they don't even visit my church. and they only lives a few blocks away, you know? Because Oprah, she's that kind of person. Oh, I love you. I care for you. I won't leave you. But when she hears about, in the future, she's going to be hearing about the consequences of not leaving her. She's like, okay, goodbye. And they said to her, surely we will return with you to your people. But Naomi said, turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there still sons in my womb that they may be your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, and if I should have a husband tonight, and should also bear sons, would you wait for them till they are grown? Would you restrain yourselves from having husbands? No, my daughter, for it grieves me very much for your sakes, that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law. But Ruth clung to her. Notice the difference. Ruth clung to her. She wasn't going to leave her. She walked the talk. There are lots of people who like to talk the talk, but they can't walk what they talk. And look at what Naomi tells Ruth. And she said, look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. Go after her. Sometimes it's the people of God who, instead of bringing people more closer to God, they try to bring people apart from God. Sometimes it's us ourselves. We have a fallen nature. And instead of us giving testimonies of the light of God, sometimes we give testimony of our flesh, and we have to be careful of that. Anyway, I'm just telling you, we're supposed to be open books. People who don't read the gospel, they have us to see. We need to be the gospel in front of their eyes. But look at what Ruth says. Some people say this in marriages. But Ruth said, entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I also be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me. I was reading the Jewish Study Bible, and it says that it could also mean, that last part could also mean, may we never be apart forever. It also could mean that in the Hebrew. When she saw that she was determined, that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped speaking to her. In other words, there's nothing that's going to make you convinced to go back. You're going to continue. She was one of those people in the Bible. I ain't leaving you. Like Elisha did to Elijah. I ain't leaving you. Because I want that blessing. I ain't leaving you. And we see also us in our affliction. It is in our affliction that the power of God is more seen. Because if it was in her affliction, Naomi's affliction, that Ruth gave her life to the God of the Bible. We will continue this study in our next program. There's still more to continue in this. We need to see Boaz as the kinsman redeemer, a type of Christ, how God showed Christ in the Old Testament. We'll see this in a few. Let's continue in our next program.
Get ready to hear Mr. Cockleites and the Bible Podcast. Get ready to learn the